Thinking about taking a piece of land and splitting it into multiple profitable lots, subdividing is one of the most powerful ways developers create real value out of thin air. But this is also one of the trickiest strategies to get right. If you don't know the process, it can cost you time, money, and even kill your deal. I'm Josephine, real estate developer and coach. In today's video, I'll walk you through step by step how to subdivide land as a developer so that you can avoid the headaches and start building wealth with confidence. I'm also going to show you a real example of land that I've subdivided. And if you want to learn the entire development process I use here to develop profitable projects, grab our free developer roadmap. I've linked it here below. So let's start with step number 1. You gotta know what type of subdivision you have. Not all subdivisions are created equal. Here, Metro Nashville recognizes 3 main types. The first are partitions. This is the simplest. It's just splitting 2 lots on an existing streets with no new infrastructure besides maybe sidewalks. The second are minor subdivisions, usually up to 4 or 5 lots on existing streets and only require minimal improvements like sidewalks, right? And then there are third major subdivisions, anything bigger or anything that requires new streets, right-of-way dedication, or utility extensions. And here's the key. The bigger or more complicated your project, the more steps and approvals you'll need, right? Makes sense. Here's step number 2, pre-application and frontage analysis. Before you even submit anything, Nashville recommends a pre-application conference with the planning staff. There's actually a pre-application form even. This is where you talk through your idea and ask questions and figure out any big issues up front. So really important. But here's where most developers miss the mark. You've got to run a lot of frontage analysis. According to the Metro Nashville zoning code, your subdivision isn't judged in a vacuum, right? The city looks at the average frontage of surrounding parcels to make sure your new lot actually fits the neighborhood's established character. So here's how I generally look at those subdivision opportunities. A new lot has to have frontage that's either at least 70% of the average frontage of surrounding parcels or at least equal to the smallest frontage of those parcels, whichever is greater. And that means if every lot around you is 50 feet wide, you can't suddenly drop in 25-foot frontages and expect approval. Here's my pro tip. In the field, a lot of developers like us use a shortcut rule of thumb. You look at the 4 lots to the left and the 4 lots to the right, and you look at the average of those widths. And that's essentially kind of your minimum that you should have. And it's not the official method, but it's a decent first gauge to see if your subdivision idea has a shot. So to get it right, check the zoning district, see if it's RS 7.5, so you have to have a minimum 7,500 square foot lot, or R6. And then look at the frontage requirements that change by zone, right? Look at the most recent subdivision regulations, and Nashville updates these actually periodically. And when in doubt, confirm with the planning department. You can always email them. And I actually recommend you to really foster a great relationship with them. Or use a land use surveyor, right? This step is so crucial. If your proposed lots don't meet the city's frontage analysis, you'll waste time and money chasing a deal that can't really get approved. So here's step number 3, the concept plan. Once you know it's feasible, the first formal step is a concept plan. And this is basically your master subdivision map, right? Showing the lots, the street layout, open spaces, any dedications, and environmental considerations. At this stage, notice goes out to property owners within 300 feet. So you're actually going to get instructions on how to send these notices out. And the Planning Commission holds a public hearing. And then they approve with conditions, or they deny your plan. And this is really important here. The concept plan approval is good for 4 years, and you can extend it, but if it expires, all grading and work has to stop. So lock this in before moving forward. And then step number 4 is the final site plan. This is where engineering really comes in. Roadway and sidewalk plan, stormwater and drainage, water and sewer connections, and landscaping is basically the construction level detail that shows how the subdivision will actually work and look. So it's really important you spend time with that. You need to really visually walk it through. Does it feel comfortable? We actually just did this for our upcoming 6 unit, which I'll be talking more about. Minor tweaks can be approved administratively, but major changes kick you back to the Planning Commission again. So make sure your engineers line up everything with your concept plan. Super important. And then step number 5, the final plat. You finally submit the final subdivision plat. And this is the official drawing that gets recorded with the Register of Deeds. It has to match your concept plan and site plan within about 5% in lot count and street layout. And at this stage, all required improvements or performance bonds have to be in place. The Planning Commission or Executive Director signs off, And then the plat gets recorded. And once the plat gets recorded, you now have legal building lots. And that's when you can pull permits, sell lots, or start construction. So now step number 6, recording and phasing. Sometimes if you got a big subdivision, like really a lot of acres or like, a lot of units, you don't record it all at once. Nashville lets you do it in phases. So each phase is bonded separately, which can help with cash flow and absorption. Absorption is really big, especially in this market. We should have a whole nother video on just that. Once the plat is signed and recorded, that's when your subdivision officially exists in the eyes of the city. Here's step number 7, re-subdivisions and lot adjustments. So this is one last thing. Nashville also regulates re-subdivision, lot line shifts, and combining lots. So if you think you'll buy a property and just start cutting it into different configurations, remember, any official change still has to run through this process. So this process is super key. And I'm also actually going to show you here a flow chart that's going to give you this visually. This is the flow chart that I just spoke about, and it shows you the subdivision approval process in a visual manner. So here on the left, see begin here, application types, okay? You have got the petition, minor subdivision, and major subdivisions that I just spoke of. And then essentially it shows you how you proceed through the pathway, okay? So for major subdivisions, you essentially have that concept plan, right? And from there, you present the development plan. And then from there, you actually submit the final plat. And when you're looking at just a petition or a minor subdivision, you essentially really propose your subdivision based on the frontage analysis that we just discussed. And then you submit your final site plat. Okay, so this is for 2 lots or less, consolidation, or any kind of approved concept plan. This is basically a guidance. And also I did give you guys here this sheet as well. I'll link it down below. And it gives you the approval procedures, really step by step on what you need to do. Ultimately, this video gives you pretty much everything that you need, but this gives you just additional detail, right? So I mentioned to you guys in the video here that we'll be giving notice to the property owners next to us, within 300 feet. So this is where you can find that confirmation, right? And ultimately, actually, when you email the planning department, they even give you instructions on how to really get those notices mailed, and then anything that you need to prepare for, right? So this is essentially a step-by-step full documents, 12 pages that walks you through every single item piece by piece. I will link this down below. I think this is basically going to get you through any kind of subdivision that you're trying to do. And now here's an actual example of a lot that I have subdivided. So I'll share my screen real quick. All right, take a look at Courtney Avenue. This is here in Nashville. It's actually in Bordeaux. And we have subdivided here actually 2 different parcels. So in the very beginning, actually the property here that we bought looked just like this one here, right? And so I think it had 100-foot frontage. So when you zoom here and you look at view parcel details, you actually can see here the frontage dimension, right? 100. So that's a beautiful lot. And so what we ended up doing is here, we divided it 50 and 50. Because remember what I said to you guys, as a rule of thumb, so that the 4 properties to the left, 4 properties to the right, and then see if you can subdivide. And now here we had property across the street that was subdivided. And then we knew that our, minimum here, in Davidson County is about 40 feet. That should be the width. And so 50 and 50 here, worked really well, right? So we put 2 units on each lot. And we actually did this across the street too. So we built 8 homes just right here. And this is very straightforward. Now, sometimes also you do have actually historical lines in between lots that you'll see. Here in this instance, you don't see those. But essentially, when you see really skinny, pointed lines, then that could indicate you that you might be able to just subdivide by right. And so definitely make sure you look out for those, but you always want to double check with your zoning and then also planning department. If it is just something that you can subdivide by right, then zoning will even be able to tell you that. But the actual subdivision path is through the planning department. And as you see, there's a lot of opportunity around here. I actually will also point out that, for example, these guys here actually kind of did this a little bit incorrectly. They built before they had the subdivision done. I do not recommend you guys do that, okay? And then also actually in this neighborhood, a lot of rezonings are going on as well. You guys see there's a lot of density that's come in here right behind us. Now you see these type of opportunities all around the country. Again, for us here in Nashville, we call these also horizontal property regimes. So HPRs, when we're building 2 homes on 1 lot. And so again, when you're subdividing here, then that's a beautiful full development opportunity. If this video gave you clarity on how to subdivide land, that's just the beginning. Inside Developer Academy, and we are nationwide, I work directly with agents, wholesalers, investors, and more who want to take the leap into real estate development and actually build wealth through their own projects. So if you're serious about moving beyond flipping or wholesaling and want a proven roadmap to becoming a developer, join me in Developer Academy. I'll link the details below. Make sure to book a call. And also, if you like the video, please subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next training. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll check out the Academy.